Hey everyone, Ben here, back with more highs and lows from the Super Formula in iRacing, and we're straight onto the grid this week for the first of 3 race highlights packages, or should that be lowlights packages. As you can see, we've had a decent start off the line. We started in P5, we're actually momentarily up into P2, and then Kobayashi, the pole sitter, who had a disaster through the opening corners, decided to just launch it straight back onto track, despite having lit up the rear tyres, lost the rear end through this opening corner, was completely out of control, but kept it in 5th gear, tried to recover it, came straight back across a live track, and I was the unlucky driver who ended up ploughing straight into him. Really disappointing. Now, I did get an apology from Kobayashi. He explained that he's been struggling with the car despite having good underlying speed, but I'll be honest, that wasn't much consolation to me at the time, because this robbed me, I think, of a chance of a really good result, maybe even a win, because I had pretty good pace here, but unfortunately it was cut short after just a corner of this opening lap. So we've taken a pretty big hit to our iRating and our safety rating from that, but nevertheless I dust myself down and get back on the grid. Now we've got a 2k strength of field this time. We're starting in the mid pack, but as the green lights come on, I'm feeling pretty good about my chances. Yes, some of the drivers there have got a better start around me, but actually we've got the jump on a couple of others, but we get a big squeeze off to the left hand side from Nacho Vic. That very nearly put me onto the grass. It has given me front wing damage, as my spotter will confirm to me soon. There was all kinds of carnage off the start line there, but for now I'm just trying to keep my nose clean, at least for the time being, from any further incidents, and try and just get a sense of how much damage have I picked up. Am I going to be down on speed through the straights of this very high speed Silverstone circuit? Am I going to be able to get the car turned in? Is it going to feel unbalanced through some of these corners? And so far it feels alright, but the big test is going to be Kops, Maggots and Beckett's, which are coming up very shortly. And of course at the moment I'm still within the slipstream of Warnecki up ahead. I've got pressure from behind from Philip Boy, who is only 0.2 seconds back, so we're going to find out pretty soon just how bad the damage from that opening contact was. But for now we're just trying to keep control of the car through these corners. It's understeering quite badly actually, and maybe I've just carried too much speed through here on cold tyres, and that's going to compromise me massively as we come back out now onto the hangar straight. Look in the rear view mirror, Boy is going to be passed here very comfortably. He's got the high ground into the corner. I don't fight it too hard, but ultimately it's not going to matter too much because the drive up ahead's had a big spin. I get caught out by it. There really was nowhere for me to go there, and it was a small bit of contact, but it was at high speed. I've got wheel damage. I clopped the curb through the final set of corners on the lap, and I'm basically out of the race. We get a black flag, and when I get back to the pit lane, my crew tells me the damage is too significant to fix. So that's 2 races down, and we haven't made it through a single lap. So we're back on the grid again for race 3 here, and actually my underlying pace is really good. I've managed to get my qualifying laps down into the low 136s, and we're going to be starting in P8 in a very competitive grid. Can I finally get a clean race here and get a good result? Well, we're going to find out over the course of the next 10 laps of Silverstone here. Eyes forward, lights have gone red, and we've been held for ages, but finally they're green, and actually not a bad start, but a couple of drivers behind have got off to absolute flyers, and actually we see them cut back across this big accident up ahead. Another first corner disaster in this Super Formula series. It just seems like drivers can't get through that opening corner without coming together. More congestion up ahead as I get a call from the spotter that somebody's off to the right hand side, multiple drivers off to the right hand side, and actually one rejoining at speed, and another collision, and actually the driver up ahead's lost his wheel. I have to slam the brakes on. Somehow we don't get collected by faster drivers behind. Honestly, some of the decision making from drivers on these grids is absolutely wild, and it's ruining races for drivers up and down the grid. Those incidents there could have resulted in absolutely massive collisions, and it could have been another race over before the end of lap 1 for me. Thankfully this time luck was on my side and we've been able to get through without damage and without incident points. And actually I'm shaping up here, having had a quicker run through cops on Luca Palladino, who managed to get past us in the midst of all of that nonsense on the opening lap. In the end we think better of challenging through Maggots and Beckett's and just consolidate ourselves. I think we're still somehow in P8. Let's take a look on replay then at what happened at the front of this field. P1 getting tagged by a fast starting driver on his inside there. That was Matej Zabrozic coming together with Del Rivo, and then the new lead car, Soto, gets it wrong into the loop, locks up big time, ends up having to run out wide, gathers the car, but then decides he wants to rejoin as fast as possible, hits the curb at high speed, hits the unsuspecting Morris Rowe, and that is both of their races over. We rejoin the live action then on lap 2 and we are indeed still in P8, but look up ahead, Luca Palladino making a move on Hugo Vranic. He's going to be down the inside there then, the position will be his. I've got a decent gap back to Jordan Andrade, 2.8 seconds to the 9th place runner, so actually I can focus on this battle up ahead, and there are 3 drivers vying for position here, Vranic, Palladino and Castellanos up ahead of him in P5 as we cross the line to start lap 3, and it looks like I've got decent pace here on Vranic, so maybe an opportunity will arise this lap. But up ahead Castellano is locked up massively coming into Village. We're going to have a chance around the outside into the loop, we're side by side, but he's going to get better drive out of the corner. But let's use my boost here to try and get past on the straight into the middle sector of the lap. He goes defensive, it's going to be about who can be later on the brakes, and even though Castellanos had the inside line, I was able to hold it around the outside and make the position mine, so I'll be up then into P7 in this race. Good to be making progress. Let's take a look at it on replay then. We're side by side through the fast left-hander, and actually he didn't put up too much of a fight and we were able to hold it around the outside. We rejoin then later on in lap 3, and now Hugo Vranic is the target. Up the road, we're within half a second as we hit the Maggots and Beckett's complex once again. The car's still not really up to temperature, so I'm still trying to just coax the car through those corners, not get offline. You can lose a bunch of time if you do get offline, and then it costs you all the way down the hanger straight. So you've got to be just a little bit moderate on these opening laps to not end up costing yourself more time than you gain by pushing too hard. And you can see we're going to close up massively in the braking zone here into the final set of corners on this 3rd lap. I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to make a move here on lap 4, because it feels like at this stage of the race at least I've got more pace than Vranic up ahead, and I don't want to let Palladino and Banyas and Humber up ahead get too far away from me in this opening stage of the race, because I was hoping for a top 5 finish here. My qualifying time was pretty strong, my lap time so far haven't matched that as we're closing right in here on Vranic up ahead. Maybe I'll have a chance here because I'm going to try and get into his slipstream. Unfortunately I don't have my boost button available and he does. You can see the red light flashing on the rear of Vranic's car there, so I shaped to the inside more than anything, trying to put him off into the left-hander. But I'm not going to have the momentum through this part of the lap as he's deploying his boost, and you can see actually the gap has extended just a little, but my boost will recharge for the second half of this lap. So if he loses his charge through this part of the lap, I might get the strategic advantage down the hanger straight if I can stay in close enough contact through Maggots and Beckett's this time around. Let's find out if I can. You can see we're slowly creeping up onto his rear wing there, but actually he gets a very good exit onto the hanger straight. We are still within his slipstream, but actually 0.6 seconds back. I'm going to gain on him down the hanger straight here, but I'm not going to be close enough to mount an attack into this right-hander. So far then, it's a stalemate. We've both used our boost on the last lap and we're still within half a second behind Vranic here. I haven't been able to get past him on that lap, but just as we're coming to the end of this lap, more opportunities will arise as we get started on a new lap here at Silverstone. I feel like He's particularly uncomfortable through Village and the loop. He took a very narrow line last time around, very nearly ended up running it out wide. Will he do the same thing again here as I'm crawling all over the rear wing here of Varnich? He's again kept a very tight line and he's lost the rear end. He's lit up the rear tyres and he's span out, and that'll be me then up into P6. Let's take a look at it on replay, and you can actually see the car sliding very early on in the corner. He tries to get on the accelerator, and that is enough to loop the rear end around. We resume the live action then on lap 9, and a critical event is about to take place. We're following second place man Jeremy Humber through Village there, and he gets tagged from behind by Del Rivo. Now Del Rivo was the guy who was taken out in T1. He is a few laps down at this point and a back marker, but he was messing around with the front runners and contact was made. Now Humber was understandably extremely frustrated by that. We're now back into my cockpit for the final lap and a half of this race. I've got a chance now of getting onto the rear wing of Humber and making up a final position and finally getting into the top 5 here. But it will come down to how much damage, if any, he sustained in that collision and whether I can stick within his slipstream and make a move in this final couple of minutes of the race. Let's see if we can do it as we enter the very high speed section of the track. Very difficult to follow closely behind through cops. The dirty air really unsettles your car and you end up understeering out wide. Again, we're following him pretty closely here through Maggots and Beckett's. I'm not envisaging being close enough to make a move into the final corners of this lap, but I've just got to keep the pressure on here, as no doubt Humber and his helmet will be raging at having been taken out of P2. He wasn't that far off the lead of the race. When I look at the lap times, we've been setting similar kinds of times, so this is going to be very tight. It's by no means a gimme that I'm going to be able to make up this place into the final lap. We're going to get the white flag. One more racing lap left then. We're following very closely behind. The battle is on. Can I make it happen? Can I put enough pressure on? Well, we've got enough boost to get us through to the end of the race, and it doesn't look as if Humber does. So maybe I've got a strategic advantage on that front at least as we get heavy on the brakes. Slight lock up ahead. That's going to give me some time on him through this section of track. Can I get a good exit onto the long straight here and maybe put some pressure on before we get into Cops, Maggots and Beckett's? We're going to find out here then as we're closing in the slipstream. I'm not going to be close enough to get alongside, but I can pile the pressure on here then into the very tricky long right hairpin. Can we make sure that we get a better exit here then and maybe, just maybe, get alongside into Cops? It'll take a lot of bravery to get the move done there and a lot of cooperation from the other driver. In the end, it's going to be moot because I'm not close enough, but I am going to be close enough to get a disturbed run through the corner. We keep it nice and tight, very nearly run out wide, and we are closing in all the time here, but at the very worst part of the track to do it. I've got nowhere to go there. Despite closing right in and having significant overspeed, I had to get out of the gas. That's compromised me all the way through the corners, and actually it's compromised me all the way out onto the hanger straight. Again, we're much quicker as Humber doesn't seem to have any boost left, but I'm not going to be close enough to get alongside into the fast right-hander. I'm not even sure if I'm going to be close enough to make a last-minute dive into the heavy braking zone here then at the very end of the lap. It looks as if I'm going to have to settle for P6 here unless Humber makes a big mistake through the final corner, and unfortunately for me, he does not. A great frantic battle there at the end of the race. I've got to say, I don't feel too bad about it because I do have a lot of sympathy with Humber for being taken out of P2 by a back marker. I know there are other views on this, but if I'm a back marker in that situation, I simply don't get involved with the front running pack. I get out of the way, even if I've got competitive pace with them. Nevertheless, here are the final classified results then. A really enjoyable race in the end, but man, some of the driving standards in this series leave a lot to be desired, and I just fear that if it doesn't settle down soon, we're over halfway through this inaugural Super Formula season, then actually we'll see participation wane, because I can't lie, half of this week for me was not a lot of fun. The second half was, this race was a great example of as good as Super Formula can be. Hopefully we'll see more of that in the future. If you want to see more entertaining Super Formula races, check out the video that's on screen, and I will see you on the next one.